many people are on Facebook? You're amongst 500 million people, spending 6 billion minutes a day on Facebook, apparently. So I hope you're productive in the other minutes of the day. How about how many people are twits? How many people are on Twitter? Whoa, we're quite overrepresented with twits today. It's interesting, given the educational statistics we heard earlier. Getting on for 100 million users, and at peak times 1,000 tweets a second. What about YouTube? Anybody watched a video on YouTube? Yeah, quite a lot of people, almost everybody. Anybody uploaded a video to YouTube? Quite a lot of people. You're very tech savvy over here, which is great. And what about mobile phone? Anybody access the internet on your mobile phone? Again, pretty well overrepresented. UK and Ireland, about a third of us are now regularly accessing the internet on our mobile phones, which is quite a big change. And I've been meeting some people this afternoon who are in the mobile internet business and are from businesses in Northern Ireland, which is fantastic to see. This is going to be huge, and I'll talk about that in a second. But before I do, I wanted to just point out to my American colleagues reasons to believe that the innovation that's been seen here historically can continue. So the wireless invented over here rather than in the US in 1864. Anybody know who invented that? Marconi? James Clerk Maxwell I was going to credit with that. What about this one? Who was that? Anybody? Alexander Graham Bell? Fantastic. More people have access to mobile phones in the world now than have access to clean toilets, according to the UN. I'm not sure there's a connection, but I mean, hugely widespread adoption of that technology. What about this? 1925, John Logie Baird, TVs. In America, do you know how much television the average American watches? 5 hours a day. 5 hours a day since the 1950s. A lot of time spent watching television. Not to say it's a bad thing, but you could be productive at the same time, and that's what this is all about. 1990s, again, over here, not over there, Tim Berners-Lee, the World Wide Web. And now we've got getting on towards 2 billion people connected to the internet around the planet. Fascinating, and not American, but something that we can all exploit, and I want to go on and talk about that, because I think we live in exponential times. If I'd asked the same group of people those questions I asked at the beginning a year ago, the number of hands going up would be lower on almost everything, I think. Twitter in particular, I mean, don't forget, 5 years ago, Twitter and Facebook and YouTube barely existed outside of US universities or very small-scale operations, and now they're being used very consistently. Almost everybody raised their hand in terms of watching a YouTube video, for example. So we live in exponential times, times of real change. We heard about the broadband connectivity that's here and the education that's here, and the vibrancy of the opportunity is what I want to talk to you about. In a world where everyone is a broadcaster. You see those statistics, 20 million bloggers in the world, 4 billion photos on Flickr being shared, 55 million tweets a day. Everyone is able to publish their information. It's what Salman Rushdie calls a vomit of information out there on the internet. But we can all publish. Did you know that there are more people earning a living from blogging in the United States than there are lawyers in the United States? It's quite interesting. They're probably not earning as much as a lawyer would, but there are a lot of people now making a living from this kind of thing, which wasn't possible a few years ago. Everyone is in entertainment. I think this is really surprising. We own YouTube, and YouTube has 25 hours of video content uploaded every minute. So everybody who put their hands up saying I'm uploading videos to YouTube, 25 hours of content a minute being uploaded to YouTube. There's something like 1,700 years of content on YouTube. It's a vast video repository, and again, it's being shared. Also, there's a blurring of devices and gadgets. Over here, we've got 1 in 8 views of BBC iPlayer come from games consoles. Anybody got children who like to play the Wii or whatever? Often a surprise to their parents is that they can actually watch television programs through the games console. And actually, you can watch videos and iPlayer on your mobile phone. If you've got an iPhone or an Android phone, people will be doing this quite a lot. So it's a complete blurring of how the technology is being used. And over 10 billion songs have now been downloaded from iTunes. So everybody's entertaining themselves in new and different ways with different devices. Everyone's connected. So at Google, the vast majority of our focus is still on the search engine and making it easy for you to find things on the internet. Hopefully it's easier for you, certainly for me, it's easier to find things on the internet than it is to find things in my sock drawer. And the internet has got 1 trillion URLs or more now. So that is a lot of URL, unique resource locator. Mostly it's a website, but increasingly it's a document or a video or a photo that's sort of tagged up that the internet can find. So we spend our time trying to crawl the internet and index all of that so that we can give you the results that you find useful when you're asking us a question. And the internet's getting bigger and faster, and it's also getting fresher than ever before. As more and more people are updating Twitter and so on and so forth, we're all participating in putting content onto the internet. We have to crawl it faster and more often in order to give you the right results. So a challenge for us. A quarter of the world's population is now online. Big opportunity because you can now publish to anybody. As we were saying earlier, my 9-year-old can put a video on YouTube and it can reach a quarter of the world's population at zero cost. Now, a few years back, the BBC World Service was about the only thing that could do that. And that was a closed kind of network, and you had to speak in a certain accent to be able to do that. And now, my 9-year-old can do that, and so can yours, and so can all of you. 400 million people are all on Facebook, doing social things and connecting with their friends. It's going to change even more dramatically when you've got the entire internet in your pocket, and many of us have. Half of all new internet connections are now mobile, as a wireless broadband laptop or a mobile phone. By 2013, smartphones, sales of smartphones are going to overtake PC sales. A smartphone being an iPhone or an Android phone that's optimized for accessing the internet. And we know that when you compare a high-end phone like a BlackBerry with an iPhone or an Android phone, we get 30 to 50 times more internet use, 30 to 50 times more searches on an iPhone or an Android phone, because it's just an easier way of accessing the internet, and people like to do that. They do quite a lot of it at home, actually, not just out and about around the place. The big difference here is that 67% of the world's population have got access to the mobile internet. So suddenly the internet goes from being the preserve of a quarter of the planet, the rich quarter, to actually something that the majority of the people on the planet can get their hands on. And I think that's going to change things very dramatically, and that's over the next 2 to 3 years. It's a good reason to be experimenting now with having a website, isn't it? The good news, I think, is if you don't have a website now, we're in the early days of this. It's a bit like saying, you know, look at a movie that came out last year, Avatar. Hugely complex, 3D, computer-generated. You may or may not have enjoyed the story, but it's a huge technical achievement. But early on in movies, we were in the silent black and white movie era. And I think we're in the early days of understanding how to use the internet well. And it's easy to leapfrog over some of the mistakes or the lessons of the last few years. But it seems, if you're sitting where you are, my God, what have he's just told us all this huge array of stats. There's just too much going on. How can I possibly, in my little business, in my little part of the world, make a difference? How can I possibly cope with all of that sensory overload? But I think the way I would advise you to do that would be just to take a deep breath, because the internet and the real world are the same thing. This is something I learned last year when I spoke to a 19-year-old. We had a big conference of senior marketing guru types in a room like this, and everybody was trying to talk about how do they think about the internet, what it's all about, and this 19-year-old got up, and he is called Charlie McDonnell. And anybody who's young and on YouTube might have come across him, because he's been viewed 90 million times by people on YouTube with his little video blogs. 19-year-old from Bath, I think. And he just makes entertaining videos, and he's reached an audience of 90 million people. And what he was saying was, I don't understand why people older than me, 19, I don't understand why people older than me think the internet and the real world are different. They're not. They're the same thing. We do all the same stuff online that we do in the real world. And it doesn't have to be technically difficult, and that's the other key message today. Let me explain a little bit more about that. Instead of thinking about the beginning of the digital era, think about the end of the digital era. We're just in the world that we're in today. People want to do the same things online that they do offline. They want to research things, find things, share things, connect with people. They want to buy things, they want to sell things, they want to be entertained, they want to entertain their friends, they want to do the same things on the internet. And it's now much easier to do them than you might think. 5 out of the top 10 online shops are offline shops. It's not the specialists now, it's the normal businesses that we're all familiar with and have been for many years that are being successful online. Media consumption, the internet, which is the red bit at the bottom here, is 1/3 of our media time now. If you look at all the hours we spend on TV and newspapers and games and print and radio, the internet's just about 1/3 of our media time. So it's mass market. In Northern Ireland in particular, everybody's got it, and it's just part of what we do in our everyday lives. So 4 thoughts here on what I see companies, large and small, doing to make the most of the internet. 4 themes: being greater with data, getting digital basics right, multi-channel and multimedia, putting the digital and the real together in a smart way, and leaping and learning. Here's a tool that you might find interesting. Even if you didn't have an internet business, this is free. This is a way of looking at what people are interested in on Google. So you can find this tool by typing Insights for Search, and a good search engine will return the listing Google Insights for Search as a result of that, and you can click that listing, and it takes you through to a page like this. A very simple page, and it allows you to type in a word or phrase or a set of words and phrases, and to see, for different countries and different time periods, what's the trend in interest in those words. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples to show you what that might be like, and I thought to illustrate the fact the internet is developing at a pace, let's set a baseline. This is not live, but I'm just going to show you how the tool operates. So I thought people associate the internet with, an interest in sex. Do you agree? Nobody wants to own up. So there's sex. I'll give you the baseline of sex. So I wanted to ask you a question. I'm conscious that by now you might be starting to nod off, so I wanted to interest you with the word sex, but also say, what about chocolate? Do you think people in Belfast are more interested in chocolate or sex? Lady over here said sex, everybody else said chocolate. So you're in for a good evening. Chocolate is quite a lot lower than sex, sadly. What about football? I can't hear you. Higher. It's like, I feel like Bruce Forsyth. Football, there's a higher level of interest in football than there is in sex or chocolate. I don't know what's happened to your birth rate, but there's something that's much higher than that. Look at YouTube, interest levels in YouTube. I could have gone through all kinds of other things. What about the product that you sell? What about the service that you provide? What's the interest level in that? What's the interest level in that relative to other things? What if you stock a range of products? Which products are more researched online by people searching into Google? That would be interesting to know. What about the seasonality and interest in some of those things? Great example, I haven't got it here, but a great example I found was maxi dresses. Any gentlemen in the audience know what a maxi dress is? No. Ladies? It's a long dress, goes all the way down to the floor, doesn't it? Yeah. So I used Insights for Search, and I searched for maxi dresses to see what the seasonality was, because I knew it was a summer wear. And it shows you a nice sort of thing where you can see rise in interest as we approach the summer and then falling away. And I did that first for 2007, and then I compared it with 2008, and I saw the same kind of curve, but starting a bit earlier, getting a little bit higher, and lasting for a little bit longer. 2009, this was even higher and longer, and then more sustained, and then fell away later. 2010, it's been like this. If only I'd started a maxi dress business, I could have retired by now. But wouldn't it be interesting to know that? Even if you didn't sell your product or service online, even if you only had a shop, that would have been really useful to know, wouldn't it? So I think there's tons of real-time data that you can now access free. And it's not just in our tool, but that's just an example which I think is interesting for you, that can help you make your business better, even if you choose not to have a website to market or sell your products online. So my first thing is real-time data that can really help you run your business better. The second thing, obviously, is to get a website that works, and my friend Richard will be here later to show you exactly how to do that, and then we'll have people and demonstrations there that will allow you to get a website up and running that works in 10 to 20 minutes, free. It's no longer something that is technically difficult. It's no longer something that's expensive, because online storage is virtually costless. It is costless to you, and so it's really, really easy to have a go. And then there's a third thing which I mentioned, which is multi-channel, sort of multimedia. This is something that even the big players are only just starting to figure out now. How does what I do online influence my store sales? Anybody shop with John Lewis? You heard of them, seen them online? They've started to discover that people who shop in their stores and on the internet are more valuable customers by a factor of 4 than people who only shop in a store or on the internet, because they've got a relationship in more than one place with those kinds of customers. That's kind of worth knowing. Now, I don't know whether that would hold true for your business if you've got a physical location and an internet site, but it's the sort of thing that's worth understanding. This is an example of a large company in France where they were trying to figure out how much does €1 spent on online marketing deliver in terms of selling televisions in stores. And they found that for every euro that they spent, every single euro that they spent in online marketing, they were getting 20 euros back in terms of sales of televisions. People are just starting to try to figure this stuff out, but it's clearly having a big influence on the physical business, because we operate in this world which is both digital and physical. You recognize this gentleman? Some of you may have been aware he ran a very, very successful campaign in engaging support from the grassroots, a lot of it using the internet. I've just got one example here of something that he did and businesses are doing every day to try to improve the user experience, the experience of all of us when we're researching and doing things online. So one of the things he did was want people to join his movement, big red Join Us Now button. But he didn't want to just, or his campaign team didn't want to just put that website up. They wanted to put up a website that really got the highest possible number of people to join us now and start getting involved in fundraising and activity. So how did he do that? Came up with 24 different variants of that page, 24 different versions of that page. Now in the past, this kind of thing suffered from the hippo effect. Has anybody heard of the hippo effect? The hippo is something which is very dangerous. It's the highest paid person's opinion. So what would happen would be the highest paid person would just say, that's the one we're going to run with. Fair enough, you're the boss. But now you can try a whole range of different things, and in an automated way, the Obama campaign ran 24 different versions of this page to see what people actually did when they saw those different versions. And over time, they get enough visitors to get a statistically significant difference in performance from those pages. And it turned out that there was one version that was significantly better than all the others at getting people to join up now. And that was it. Who'd have guessed? Not the highest paid person. But the real world was telling the campaign which one they liked best just by voting, by pressing the button or not pressing the button. So that's a slightly more advanced thing that you can do online, but that technology is available free. And if you have a website out of today's event, you would be able to use that kind of technology and test and improve the experience of your customers, not based on your opinion, but based on what they actually do. Something which is very hard and costly to do in the physical world. So I've got another little quiz for you to take us to the end of this section. Which page drove more sales? We got a shoe shop here, online shoes. They had a page like this, and with big shoes, I'll call that, page number one. A page like this, which is sort of medium-sized shoes, and then a page like the third page, which is a slightly different variant of that, which is changing around the formats. And by allowing different people to see different versions of that, they could see which one led to the most shoes being put in the shopping basket. So I'd like to ask you, could everybody play? Are you happy to play this? Can you raise your hands if you think version 1 would deliver the best results? Oh, quite a lot of people for version 1. What about version 2? Not very popular. Version 3? Medium. So it's interesting, we probably haven't got a big enough sample here to get the answer right, because the winner was actually version 3, and it had a 56% increase in the number of shoes added to the basket. So big increase, driven by real-time research into what consumers actually do. So that kind of thing could be really powerful. Imagine if that was your business, getting that many more sales just by some simple testing. Big, big opportunity. So free themes so far introduced, hopefully to just whet your appetite as to what the internet could do for you and your business. The fourth and final point, and I think probably the most important point, is leaping and learning. Experimenting is not just something that you ought to try to do, it absolutely is a way of life on the internet. We at Google experiment all the time with little variations in what we do to try to make our search results better for you, because that's our business. If you don't want to come and search with us, we don't have a business. So we really focus on doing that all the time. And hopefully today you'll be encouraged to leap and learn as well. Thank you very much.